All right, welcome in. This is the Individual Skills Hockey Podcast, a podcast aimed at bringing quality education to youth hockey coaches, parents, and players with the mission of having a positive impact on the crazy youth hockey world. My name is Miles Deeth. I'm the host. I'm one of the high school coaches at Wayzata High School, and I'm also the Director of Hockey Operations for Wayzata Youth Hockey Association. With me today is Peter Samardzija of Attitude Goaltending. Welcome in, and thanks for being here, Pete.
Glad to be here, Miles. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I have been excited about this conversation for a while, ever since I came up with starting a podcast, just because we've grown pretty close over the years. You were one of the goalie coaches when I actually played at Wayzata. Mm-hmm. And ever since I started coaching, we've grown even closer, and I've come to really respect and admire the way you go about things. So with that, maybe if you can just give us a little bit of background on yourself, how you got into coaching, and then how maybe Attitude Goaltending started up.
Okay, well, I started obviously playing hockey up in the Iron Range, Eveleth Gilbert, so I'm from a small association. In fact, our association, I witnessed one of the first associations being combined as far as up north, where you had Gilbert and Eveleth being combined. I grew up there. We were fortunate enough to win a state championship. And I really just loved the game. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position to play my senior year where we won a state championship, which led me to getting an opportunity to play for the Twin City Vulcans in the USHL, which then led to a hockey scholarship at the University of Minnesota, where I spent 2 years, learned a lot there, wound up finishing my 2 years at Augsburg College, and then I played a brief stint of professional hockey for the Adirondack Ice Hawks and the Quad City Mallards. So from there, I just always knew that I wanted to coach hockey. I can remember being at junior hockey up at Fridley Ice Arena, and the Fridley ice hockey team did not have a goalie coach, and they asked if I would go out there. Well, I had taught them something that I had just learned, which was a pivot. And a pivot helps a goalie stay square to the shooter, right? So I'm teaching this kid, and he's like, oh, I've never heard of this before. And he pivots, and he moves over, and like the light bulb flashes, and I was like, oh my gosh. That ability to translate a message and teach somebody something that helps them enjoy the position even more, I was like, wow, yeah, that's addicting. Yeah. Like I think I really like this. So after that, it went to, I think it was 2002 when Pat O'Leary had me come out to Individual Skills. Wow. And so I started training with Rick Beckfeld and Pat O'Leary as their goalie coach out there. And I mean, the story just goes on from there. So I've been doing this for 20 years now. I'm very fortunate to be involved at all levels of hockey, from mites right down to having a goalie play in the NHL. So I'm very blessed. I take it as a privilege to be able to coach kids. And I really think that this game can be transformational.
Yeah, and I think those of us that are doing this full time have similar stories about falling in love with the coaching side of it. But I just wanted to ask, so you have your business, Attitude Goaltending. Kind of sum up your mission statement or your core beliefs as an organization on how you approach goalie training.
Awesome. So for us at Attitude Goaltending, there are no two goalies that are identical, or no two goalies are the same. That's what I can remember watching hockey and being like, well, in the NHL level, watching Hasek, and then you would watch Brodeur, and then you would watch Waugh, and it's like none of these guys are the same. But even before all of that, the one thing that I recognized as far as a coaching philosophy was, here I am, like, playing college hockey. I can remember this very vividly. And sitting in my dorm room going, what is going on? One day I can stop every single puck, and then the very next day I'm the same person, but I have no confidence. Like I don't know what I'm doing in the net. Like I don't feel like I know where my angle is. And that's when I recognized that your attitude is the most important thing that you can bring to the table when you're a goaltender. And I'm sure it's for all positions, but specifically your attitude. So our philosophy is there's no two goalies that are the same, but your attitude is the biggest driver in your performance. So it's not just how you handle your defeats, but it's also how you handle your successes. You know, those are the two hardest things to actually handle. It's like when I'm coaching in juniors, a goalie gets an NCAA commit, it could be a month before that goalie plays well again because all of his effort was driving up to getting that commit, and then you have this slump. So it's equally as important to know how to handle your successes, and then like the failures, how do you get out? How do you like win your losses? So at Attitude Goaltending, we do teach technique, but we also really dig into like, what is your mindset? What's your attitude? And how do you handle the lessons that hockey is teaching you?
That's awesome. And I guess my follow-up to that would be, it's fair to say that you guys spend quite a bit of time on the mental side of goaltending. Talk a little bit about how that process goes based on how old goalies are. So does more technique come into play at the younger ages, and then does that slowly shift to more mental as you get up to high school, junior, post-high school type stuff? Does that balance shift?
I would say that's a great question. And I might want to preface it with, number one, every time you step out on the rink with a goalie or a session or whatever it is you're doing, you have to take a barometer of, like, for goaltenders at least, of where that kid is. Like, where are they right now today? Are they able to learn today? Like, because if they're not really enjoying it, they can be shut down, and no matter what you teach them, they're not going to remember. It's not going to be relevant to them. So, like, number one, are you having fun? Like, where are you at with this? Because we need to remind them, hey, hockey's fun. We're supposed to learn from this. It can be really stressful. I get that. And we all have goals and all this other stuff. But when they're young, we primarily focus on, hey, are we having fun out here? Why did you start playing hockey? Because you love the game, right? So when we start them at the mite level, it's a single movement to a shot, or it's just trying to stay in a stance to make a save. Then from there, we start adding a little bit more technique. You get into squirts. We start stringing 2 movements into a save. We always talk about, for me, it's TAB, tracking, angle, balance. So these are the things that I see prevalent in all really good goalies. So even as a mite goalie, we're talking about tracking. We're talking about what an angle is, like being on angle for a shot, and then moving with balance.
For those that might not know, can you kind of dive into what tracking is?
Oh,
just
sure.
a little definition.
So there's really scientific terms like visual attachment or head trajectory, but tracking a puck is basically when a puck is shot at you, it's not just moving a piece of your body towards where that puck is, but having your eyes attached to where that puck is going and into the impact of your body or blocker or glove, and then following it after the impact. That's tracking. So it's not just the impact, it's the shot delivery to impact, and then afterwards the rebound. Where is it going to? And that's how you stay engaged and connected to the game, really.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So I guess if we back up to your last answer a little bit, you talked about having it be fun for the younger ages. So that kind of leads into my first kind of main question is, how do we get more kids to A, enjoy goalie, and B, start being a full-time goalie? Because I think it's fair to say that that's an issue that you're seeing across the landscape right now, is a lack of goalies, or maybe that's not the case, and you can speak to that as well. But just how do we get more kids to enjoy the position and actually say yes, raise their hand, I do want to be a goalie, I do want to get shots fired at me?
Yeah, no, let me just go back just for a second before I unpack that question and just say, so yes, as they get older, we add more and more techniques. I don't really feel like completely answered your question. So as they become a Bantam, we're going to be talking about that tracking angle balance, but within certain techniques, like maybe a low angle play, whether they're using a post load or just what they're seeing. And then when you get to juniors, it gets even further into the technical aspects. So without going, I mean, you need to have a good mindset and an attitude, but you do have to have the technical capabilities too. So as you get older, the more technique, just like you were thinking. So what you were saying now is, how do we get more kids to be a goalie and enjoy the game?
Or maybe first, do you think that is an issue right now?
I do think it's an issue. Theoretically, we should be having, and this is a question I know you want to ask me, but we should have 2 goalies on every team.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many different things that add value to having 2 goalies on a team. And there are arguments to say, oh, I only want 1 goalie on the team, and we can dive into that too.
Yeah.
But when you have 2 goalies on a team, it gives a chance for a goalie to actually fight for ice time, which he's going to have to do eventually. It also gives them a partner on the team that is going through a shared experience with them. So you don't have some of the mental awareness that we have nowadays wasn't where it was back in the day. But I do remember talking to my goalie partners about what was going on, or whatever shots I was having trouble with. And that sometimes was the only goalie coaching you got, was talking to your goalie partner.
Right. Or what did you see in between periods on how did that one go in
exactly.
or something like that. So,
yeah.
So how do we get more kids to?
So here at Wayzata, I do think and I am the goalie coach here at Wayzata too. What we've been implementing is a MITE program that is robust. And now from that, we're trying to get a large number to begin with, because just like all positions, you're going to have this number of the starting pool that's going to go down and down as you go higher and higher in the years of playing hockey. So what we do is we have goalie bags. We try to take away all the barriers to playing, right? Whether it's financial, whether it's equipment, whether it's ice time, whether it's the training, we have all those prongs kind of covered, and we have a finger on the pulse. So starting as a second or third year MITE goalie, you can come and experience what it is being a goalie on an ice session with goalie coaches in an environment that's going to make sure that kid has a good experience.
Yeah.
Because what I feel that does happen is if you send a kid out there and he's got the pads on wrong, goes down in a butterfly, isn't wearing knee pads, and takes one off the knee, count him out for goaltender.
Yeah. So what are some easy ways for MITE coaches, or I guess backing up, what is the best environment for a first time out? Is it a goalie only session, or is it a practice, or is it a game?
It's a goalie only session.
Okay.
It's a kid with a dad on the ice that is really controlling the tempo and what you're working on, and letting that kid have a little success.
Okay.
Okay. Because just look at the net. It's not like tennis where they make the rink smaller when you start playing tennis. You got a big net to cover. You're gonna get a lot of bumps when you start playing goalie.
This is just thought of this, but how do you feel? What's your stance on the mini nets?
I like them
for first timers.
Yeah, man. It makes it fun. It makes it more realistic. For me, covering that whole net is pretty daunting when you're that tiny.
Well, I was thinking about the other day, I think hockey's the only sport that kids don't start out on a smaller playing surface.
Yeah.
So you think about baseball, they're on 50-foot mounds.
Yep.
Soccer, they're on mini fields. Football, they're on narrower fields. Golf, they're playing from the forward tees.
Yep.
So it's whatever we can do to kind of shrink things and make it less intimidating, maybe, and then going back to the success on the mini nets, I think might be a good idea.
Man, if we could get everybody on board with mini nets, so they want to practice in what they're going to do in a game. So I think for the mini nets to really take off, we'd have to have associations bought in, and I think most associations have some mini nets kind of hidden away. But if they were going to play a MITE game, to have the mini nets in those games too. And I think we'd see a lot of buy-in and a lot of fun with it too. I think it would be harder for the forwards to score, but maybe that's just my thoughts and not reality.
No, I agree. I think, obviously there's a financial thing to that too, and making sure every rink has them, but I think it's a good idea. Kind of moving forward here, I'd like to ask about, we get questions all the time, I'm sure you do too, on how coaches support goalies throughout the season. So there's not that many goalie experts out there, fair to say, compared to skater experts, somebody that played the position. Yeah. So how do those types of coaches support their goalies, and actually foster their goalie development throughout the season?
I think the number one, if anybody can take something away from this conversation, it's communicate with your goalies. So even if you don't have a goalie guru or a guy that played goalie, somebody on the team should be responsible for at least saying hi to the goalie every single practice.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how often that will impact that practice for that goalie substantially. it's weird to be out there on the ice and the team's going up to the blackboard and they draw up all the drills and we're doing this and that, and this is for Johnny on the D. We want you gapping up and we want the wings really supporting, and you get everybody covered. All right, go. And the goalie goes in the net, does a great job. Next drill, they go up there. They drop the drill. We want our D going D to D here, and we want the center swinging. And then the goalie stinks it up on that drill. Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
So what they start learning is that it doesn't matter if I'm good or I'm bad in these drills. Nobody's holding me accountable.
Yeah.
So it's just communicating with them and being about it for their practice. And I don't think you need a goalie coach to help them with, hey, you're not tracking the puck. You're not on your angle. Or, hey, be more balanced. Stay in your goalie stance. So very simple things to make anybody a goalie. You cannot screw up a goalie by communicating with them. Let me just say this right now. Even if you give him bad advice, he's going to be able to shift through that. It's not being communicated to is probably the worst thing.
Yeah, and I think there's two scenarios to this kind of problem that's out there. I think in some instances, there are coaches out there that get annoyed with goalies or just kind of like more like super negative side of it. Mm-hmm. But I think the majority of coaches they feel a little bit insecure about giving instruction. And I think they don't know what to say, so they don't say anything at all.
Yep.
And just like you said, there's simple things that they can be always communicating to the goalies.
I mean, we've already talked about tracking. That's something you can just watch the goalie during the drill to see if he's going and for those of you who can't see the video, if he's not turning his head towards what side the puck was shot of his body, or if he's just, maybe he's closing his eyes when the puck are shot. Just look and watch him. And you can give a simple, subtle detail that goalie can attach himself to and be like, it matters how I practice. And when your goalie gets engaged in practice, that helps everybody on the team.
And do you think it's better to assign a coach to that and say the goalies are yours for the entire year, or kind of mix it up?
I do think you assign somebody to it, because everybody on this that's been a head coach, you're worrying about everybody. So that detail can slip through the cracks, where if your D coach, his job is every day to have a conversation, whether it's even at the beginning of practice, skating around the rink with them saying, hey, how was school today? You going to have a good practice?
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you compete on this 2-on-1 drill we have.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else on this area that you can think of? It's
just that, number one, I do think it's a myth. You're a coach the goalie. Like, ask him to compete harder. Ask him, what do you need to work on? Just asking good questions will get him more engaged in the practice, or her, and it will really help your whole team. So, like I said earlier, there should be somebody engaged with the goalie every single time you touch the ice.
Yeah, and another issue I just thought of is I think a lot of coaches are comfortable being tough or having expectations of skaters. But I think there's not a lot of people out there that know how to handle, maybe you have a lazy goalie, or maybe you have a goalie that's not very engaged today. How can they be comfortable being tough on a goalie when we're trying to make it fun?
Yep.
But I think for skaters, coaches do a great job of finding that balance. But for some reason, goalies, it's a little bit more difficult from my perspective on.
So let me ask this, and I think we'll come to a conclusion here, is how do we know how to push the right buttons of the players? You start to what? You start to build a
relationship and talk with them, and know what they respond to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with the goalie, but if you haven't been doing that in 3 weeks, if you haven't been putting those quarters in the piggy bank there, then you can't ask him to, hey, I need you to really put out here.
Yeah.
If you haven't been putting in on it.
Yeah.
So I really think it's the same thing that everybody's been doing for the forwards and the D, but it's just we have to be more intentful about it and not. And look, I make a living out of coaching goalies, but there's nothing more exciting to me than when I have a regular coach coaching the goalies.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, moving on, I wanted to ask a little bit about how you see the goalie development curve happening typically. Maybe there's no typical, and that's might be what you say, but I wanted to see if you could have a perspective on how goalies develop compared to what you see for skaters, as far as, and in other words, are the development curves matched, or is there something inherently about the position of goalie that maybe they are more late blooming skill wise, or the vice versa? So is there a disconnect somewhere in the age groups as we move up between skaters and goalies?
What I often see is you'll have the stellar athlete that chose to be a goalie come into squirts, and he's just right there for whatever reason, has the skating ability, can move around the crease, and it's all good and there's no issues. But then that very same kid doesn't grow. And now he enters into, let's say, his first year Bantam. And what happens is you have to learn how to play a different style of hockey now. Whereas before he was getting in the right position and pucks were hitting him, now all of a sudden he's getting in the right position, but the players, the arms race, now all of a sudden these sticks and everything else, they can pick their corners. Or they might be, for lack of better words, like not reading the play as well as they need to. So that's one of the development curves that I see. They start off gangbusters, they got the feet, they have the skating, and they go up and then they kind of come down. The other one that I see is the mid-range kid that you can kind of move around the crease. If he's down and out. It's going to take a while to get back up, but he works hard at it. And over the years, as they start getting up towards, I would say, peewees, it starts to flip. That kid starts to really gain traction, and he's probably been kicked down a couple more times, right? And so he has a little bit more of the, how do I want to say this? Not fortitude, but resilience to handle what's happening and to keep rolling with the punches. So now as he comes into Bantams, he's a strong contender for your upper level teams. These are just two examples, but it would behoove me to say that there is one specific model that I see. Yeah. I do think, like, when they enter into Bantams, the players are I see more players ready for Bantam hockey than goalies. Like, there's some real eye openers, especially since the shots at Bantams for the kids, there's a real increase in the speed.
Yeah. Well, everyone's mostly gone through puberty at that point.
Correct.
And yeah, that's what I see too, is the shot quality at Bantams is a little bit ahead of where goalies are typically at. Mm-hmm. I would say that actually happens in the USHL and the North American Hockey League too, where if you get a goalie that comes up early that's been really successful, but comes up a little bit too quick, that speed of play can really hinder their development. All right. Well, I wanted to move on and talk about some development model stuff. First off, I guess, what's the biggest difference you see between how we do things in the States compared to maybe Canada or Europe?
Well, we're very blessed here in Minnesota. I'll say that first and foremost. We've got a lot of hockey rinks. So goalies are getting ice time. There's goalie training companies in Minnesota, the Twin Cities specifically, that, have hundreds of goalies, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I'm seeing in the U.S. is that there's a need for goalie training. There's goalie trainers in the Iron Range. There's goalie trainers down southern Minnesota. The need is being met. We're seeing them being trained. As far as when we get into the youth, like say a Wayzata Youth Hockey Association, these associations are doing a great job of doing what they can to keep their goalies up to speed and taking care of them, showing them love, whether it's getting them pads or if it's getting them training or whatever it is, the resources that they need to be successful. The AAA model does a great job of getting games for goalies. Yeah, I really think that is the biggest thing for them when we look at that.
And how do you think games for goalies compares to games for skaters? Because I have my own opinions on, like, I think we're playing way too many games for skaters from, let's say, ages 9 to 15. Is there a difference there with the goalie development, or what do you think?
Well, you have to be technically, the better you are at being technically proficient, the less you're thinking of it when you're actually playing, right?
Yeah.
So I do see what you're saying. However, when they're young, the reason why they're playing is they love playing hockey.
Yeah.
Right. So there's such a, I do think we're doing a good job of acknowledging that there has to be a balance, but trying to find it, I think, is a sliding scale. When you're at Squirts, I think you can have fun with your hockey team. You're playing throw the sticks in the middle and play within your team, and everybody's enjoying it. When you get to Bantams, you kind of want to test yourself.
Yeah.
You want to play against other people. Like you do have a technical proficiency to your game, and you need it to be exposed in game play to see what else you need to work on.
Right. I think that makes sense. Is there anything that you see in practices that we could be doing better for goalies? You know, we've touched on the communication piece, but is there practice design and drill design that would be better for goalies than what you're seeing right now? Types of drills, small area games. What is best for a goalie?
So I'm very fortunate. I'm out on the ice with coaches like Pat O'Leary, yourself, and whether it's David Brown or if it's any coaches that are in this whole Twin City area, or if it's down in Iowa or wherever I might be, I get to be out on the ice with a lot of good coaches, and I find that the best practices for goalies are ones that include either defensive support or back pressure.
Okay.
So that's the one thing about goaltending is how we read the play. There's no context to the shot. You can't really read what you're supposed to be doing, or like how when you were talking about game sense in your first clip, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, well, that's goaltending. Like how we develop game sense is you need to have back pressure. You need to have some kind of clamps on time or space.
Yeah.
And then you can read the play.
So a 1-on-0 where the player's carrying the puck for 5 seconds, that's
one shooter drill of practice like that. It's all it's really needed, maybe two. And then what I would say to do within that is set up some type of area where the shooter needs to shoot from, or give them two options where they need to shoot from, so that they're not coming in, cheating the drill, coming right down. They'll just work their way right into the slot area, come right. They'll take it as far in as they can and then shoot. Well, what happens also is it screws up the timing and rhythm for the next shooter that's coming in. So
Right.
now he's not prepared, or she's not prepared for the next shot. So,
And I think when we have this type of like battle between like at high school practice, let's say, I'm starting to think like everything that you're saying is actually better for the skaters as well.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is you don't get shots off at the high levels if you have the puck for more than 3 seconds.
correct.
And I think it was something like 3% of goals in the NHL last year were scored with a carry shot.
Yep.
More than 2 or 3 seconds the player had the puck. And most of those were D-walking the blue, and then just a sifter goes through on net. So anytime you can set up a drill design with a shooting drill, it should be off the pass. Or it should be, like you said, from a specific area.
Yes, an exchange, at crossing the Royal Road, something that gives it context, or something that's giving it like a quality that makes them perform under time or pressure.
Yeah, because the classic 1-on-0 shooting drill just doesn't happen in an actual game ever.
It's a great warm-up.
Yeah.
It's a great warm-up.
If your players don't hit you in the head.
Exactly. And that's a topic I'd like to cover. In fact,
Yeah, we'll touch on that later. But what are you seeing? What are you seeing? I don't think you mentioned Europe. Do they do things a little bit differently there?
They do. I've been fortunate to work with goalies from whether it's the Czech Republic, Sweden, Slovakia, Finland, and what they're doing over there is they actually identify their best athletes, and it's a privilege to play goalie. I'm not sure how they work it out, but the equipment and all this other stuff. But if you get chosen to be a goalie, like that's a big deal. You only get a couple goalies on the team, but like that's your jam. And they select that. You don't get to choose. They kind of select you to be the goalie for the team.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's not happening here.
No.
But I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of goalies that are coming from Europe and taking higher end positions in America.
Yeah, super high end athletes. So it sounds like it's just a cultural thing that we can chip away at a little bit.
I do, and I think what we just need to have conversations around the fact that goaltending is awesome. You have
Yeah.
a chance to have the pressure on you. You have real solid, like you made a mistake or you made the save. Like you can really work on understanding your role and responsibilities on a team and personally. So for me, for goaltenders, at the end of the day, though, you know if you're a goalie or not. You put the pads on for a couple weeks, and you'll know, like even within our MITE program, you'll know if you're a goalie after the first couple times of putting your pads on.
Right. I wanted to ask about how often you see goalies that are late bloomers. So, for example, somebody makes a 10U B2 team, and I think this is a huge issue across the board in youth hockey. They get labeled as a low-end talent, but then end up playing for the high school team. Do you see that more often these days, or what are you seeing?
So when 15 years ago, I think that comment is true, that you got caught in a rut, and that's kind of what you did. And that's, I think, a lot of why AAA hockey started up, because people wanted to diversify themselves or be seen in a different light. But I've seen so much moving on goalies over the last 5-6 years, especially, where kids have been allowed to jump over kids because they worked hard, got better. And you have outside sources coming in to do evaluations and such now. So I actually think goaltenders, the goaltending position, you can actually leapfrog and make big time bounds over the course of a summer or even the course of a year. So I would say that when you're looking at that, I don't think you get slotted into a team and that's it. I have several examples just off the top of my head where we had a Bantam B2 kid that was on our varsity team last year. I've had kids go from, say, Bantam B1 their first year to Bantam B2 the second year, which is a really hard deal. But the fact is, when we do evaluations, you have to earn. You're being evaluated. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we had a player last year in the high school program that was from overseas, and he's since moved on. But he told us that the number one thing that he enjoyed about our model in Minnesota was that you get a brand new slate every single year.
Yep.
And he said where he grew up, players were identified at 10 years old, and they were slotted into their position for the rest of their hockey career.
Just like the goalies.
Yeah. I think that's great. And, it can be tough sometimes, but at the same time, you are getting a new shot every single year. So I guess a related question, do you have any tips for trying out as a goalie?
What
are goalie evaluators looking for?
So the biggest thing about tryouts is getting your mind right. First of all, you're going there to show off your skills. You're not going there to be nervous about anything. Just go there and show off the skills that you've developed. So what are coaches looking for, or what are the goalie evaluators looking for? They're looking for goalies that can show the basic understanding of all save selections. So whether that's butterfly slide, dropping in your butterfly, being able to catch a puck. I know this may sound crazy, Miles, but if you're in a goalie evaluation and every puck drops out of your glove, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Like, and goalies, if there's any goalies listening to this, play catch. Even if you don't play baseball, go outside and play catch. Like, you need to know how to catch pucks in all different areas. We do drills where we try to encourage goalies to catch pucks anywhere. So that's one thing. The other thing is just tracking, eyes on puck early, and if they follow the puck through impact like we were talking about before, being on angle, ability to manage crease depth. Those are all big things that are high on our priority list, at least when we're called on to evaluate.
Yeah, you mentioned playing baseball catch, and I wanted to make sure I asked you this. Multi-sport athletes, are they more successful at the position, or what are your thoughts on
Yes.
multi-sport athletes?
It's just hard. You have to have saint parents that have multiple sport athletes, because what happens is, as much as we say we want multiple sport athletes, which we do, there's only X amount of hours in the day, and your time gets gobbled up from all these other commitments. So I would encourage kids to play multiple sports for sure. So don't get FOMO. If you're playing baseball and you love it, keep playing baseball as long as you can.
And do those other skills in other sports translate to the goalie position?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like goaltending is, to me, is an ultimate athletic like summary, because you're reading and reacting to a play, and there's so many variables, and you have to be so athletic, your ability to move your body in positions from one dynamic position to another without losing balance. It's really fun.
Nice. We touched on it earlier, but I wanted to revisit it and have a kind of a full discussion on it. Is it more beneficial for a goalie to share a net throughout a season on a team, or be the only goalie?
I do believe, and I'll pound on a podium, that they should share a net if it's possible.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times associations don't have enough goalies to put it on 2 goalies on every team. But if you have that opportunity, there are so many benefits. You're talking about practices where you can go so many more cross-ice games where you have a goalie in each net.
Yeah.
And then you can play to see who wins. And then you can actually say, hey, last practice, this goalie won 3 out of the 4 competition drills.
Right.
Like, and then you can say, well, hey, we're going to, whatever you want to do within your team. But I think it helps each goalie get better. And it also helps them understand that, yeah, hey, I'm not just getting the net next game. So it forces them to practice harder.
Yeah. And then if there is 2 goalies on a team, do you see that trading every game is better than splitting games, or is there really no difference in your mind?
I think open discussion has to be had before the season is on, and to make sure the parents are on board with the lessons that you're aspiring to teach the kids. If you're trying to teach them about competition and ownership, like if a kid misses a practice and it's unexcused, like the other goalie should play. Like
Yeah.
if Johnny does something that's reprehensible in the locker room, like he sits a game. If one goalie is clearly outperforming the other one, that's the goalie that starts the tournament. But I think that's just normal team rules. But I think it's important to have that conversation with the parents to set goalies up for success.
But definitely trading off between the games. Like if Pete's the goalie for this game, he's the goalie for the entire game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that, unless there is one exception. If you're traveling more than 30 minutes, like if you're traveling 45 minutes to a game, maybe split the game, unless the kid has a shutout leading up to the split time, because the other kid would want to do the same thing for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so we can wrap it up soon here, but I just kind of wanted to revisit how can teammates support goalies throughout the year. I know we touched on hitting goalies in the head. That's probably an example of poor support for goalies. But do you have any tips for?
I do. Like, you wouldn't believe how far it goes. Like if you smoke your goalie in the head, to skate up to him, look him in the eyes, and say, "Hey, sorry about that." Like, we know it's not on purpose, but we are people. It hurts. Like, it's not fun. And with everything we know about concussions now, it's important to acknowledge, like, hey, don't do that again.
Yeah.
So, like, as coaches, if you have a kid on the team that is a habitual line crupper, like he's hitting the goalie in the head 2-3 times, he shouldn't be allowed to shoot at the goalie for a whole practice. Like, it's dangerous. I don't know how else to say it, especially when they're that young and they can shoot that hard. Like, you should be taking care of your teammates.
Yeah.
So that's one way. Another way is, like, when a goalie does have a bad game, make sure you go give him a pat on the head. Like, hey, he didn't want to stink that day. It just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? Or when and the coolest thing about being a goalie is at the end of a game when everybody skates up to you and gets around you after you win.
Yeah.
Do it after you lose too.
Yeah. And maybe some tips for parents, if you have any, on, because I think, I don't want to be too negative about this, but I think when goalies have bad games, there's whispers in the crowd.
No.
So
I'm aware. So, yeah, I would say if you could stay away from that's going to help your whole team mojo. And believe me, it's hard to be goalie parents when that sort of thing happens. You want to really bring the goalie parents in. In fact, you can usually find the goalie parents in the corner of the rink. Try to get them to be engaged and sit with you, so you remind yourself that their kids are kids too.
Yeah.
And they're going to make mistakes. And yes, they're going to have off days. And by the way, they had to go around 5 people before they got to the goalie. And that's not shifting blame. It's just a team sport.
yeah. All right. Well, I think we can wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming in, Pete.
You
And
bet.
like I said, I was excited to talk to you about this stuff. And if you want to, where can people find Attitude Goaltending?
Attitude Goaltending website, or otherwise you can see me at a rink near you. No, thank you, Miles.
How many associations are you up to these days?
Well, we keep it to 6 associations.
Okay.
So the one thing that we do try to keep it to a level where we can have a close relationship with all the goalies that we're working with.
Sure.
But what I did want to say is I appreciate being here, and the next time we come out, I'd love to talk mental preparation for goaltenders or hockey players in general, and go over the difference between, the technical, the mental, the emotional, all those type of fitnesses, and how that pulls together for your actual performance.
Yeah. That's awesome. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, hockeyops@wayzatahockey.org. If you have any questions that you'd like to get to Pete and you can't find him for some reason, I don't know if you want to say your email, but
Pete@attitudegoaltending.com.
all right. Thanks a lot.